All I have is a Big Daddy. All right, welcome to episode 164 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, who's apparently out of practice because we missed last week's episode. But joining me this time, we are down to myself, Chase.
G'day.
And Steven.
Well, hello.
Steven, God, I'm messing up today. Chris and Rachel are off doing other stuff. I can't talk today. If by the time you hear this, I will be driving a 14 to 15 hour drive to Texas, pulling a radar tower trailer tomorrow for the first time. So if I don't make it, remember me fondly. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, just appreciate that, Chase.
There's lots of retro games in Texas.
Everyone's be like, so where is your house at again, Jeremy? Just go raid your place. All right. So like I said, we missed last week's episode because I had an event where some of my photography was being shown, which ended up, it was shown for about a minute and a half. Like they literally just showed everybody's once and then moved on. And I was like, I thought they were going to like keep cycling or showing the photos and stuff. And no, it was just that. I was like, all right, well, they were up there moving on. But they, for some reason, whenever they showed the pictures, you ever seen people do presentations where they have those weird zoom in and zoom outs on photos? Well, they did that with these pictures where it's like, oh, we're going to make it move. And I'm like, all right, you're kind of messing up the shots. One of the ones I submitted of these two baby owls, specifically on the bottom is the one that's in focus that's poking his head up. And you can just see his eyes. He's like playing peekaboo with me, jumping up and down. And so they started that zoomed in where it's like just this out of focus bird in the background. And then by the time right before it switched, it zoomed out and you could actually see the bottom one. I'm like, well, thanks. They completely messed that up. So it looked terrible, but whatever. It was a fun conversation at least, but enough about what I've been doing. Let's talk about what everyone else has been doing. So, Steven, what you been doing, man?
I've been playing ZZZ still because it still lives. It did go through some awkward changes that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
That have to do with Aloy as well. But
oh boy,
I will touch on that a little bit later in the show. I did finish Resident Evil 4 Remake. That was good. Now I'm going to do the DLC Separate Ways. It's $10. Used to be included on the disc, but nope, not anymore. You can also pay $1 if you want the original Resident Evil 4 music, which is interesting.
Huh.
Saw that. Then I dove into the Steam Next Fest demos. I'm going to give quick bullet points on each of these because it's a lot.
Okay.
And for people who like or love any of these games or hate any of these games, they are all going to be my hot takes. City of Rampage is Dark Souls meets Streets of Rage, and it's horrible. You have to just duck and dodge and parry, and I'm like, this is supposed to be a beat 'em up. I don't want this in my beat 'em up. What have you done? Sorry, City of Rampage. Precinct is, if you ever remember the arcade game APB, it's APB on steroids.
Oh boy.
Because you have to do everything by the book when you arrest somebody, from everything from littering to larceny to murder. It's insane, but it was fun.
Shano is so waiting for this game. She keeps like checking to see when it gets a release date.
Which one?
The Precinct.
Oh, so yeah, I played through that. I was like, okay, this one's interesting. I like what I had to do there. Sorry We're Closed is basically if the original Alone in the Dark graphics met with mixed with Killer 7 and Resident Evil. It was a lot of fun to play, but it was very weird.
That sounds so confusing. How that would look.
It's a lot of weird stuff going on in that game that you're just like, okay, but it's coming to consoles too, so that's not bad. Last Exterminator is very unique. It's in the way that it's a gender-bent Duke Nukem homage. So it's basically like a smart-mouthed woman who's the last Exterminator, and she's taking down all these bugs, and it's done in the same style as Duke Nukem, where you can like play with a bunch of different stuff, interact with it. So it was.
You get to find male strippers into Chippendales.
Mushroom Musume is it's a weird visual novel type game where it's you're making decisions, and depending on what you're doing with your little daughter, which is a mushroom, it slowly grows into a little girl and like a little woman, depending on the choices you make and the things you teach her.
Chase and I both look very confused.
I think the creators are doing mushrooms.
And it was like, there'll be much more choices you can make in the full game. And I'm like, all right.
Do you know what crazy would be if you were
Craft
eating
Goblin's kind
your
of like a cool set of mini games where you're just fixing up items and making treasure out of trash, basically, and selling it back to the heroes who bring in something that they want
Nice.
modified or upgraded. So that one was pretty cool. Run Tavern Quest is pretty funny because it's a guy named Steve who's playing this game, and you are the CPU trying to make it so he can either get through it or play it properly. He'll never ask for help or go to the options, and he'll always do horrible things like kill the shopkeeper or try to, or he'll answer something totally wrong. At least in the demo, I made him quit the game.
So in other words, this is Steve getting to watch himself from an outside perspective.
So he couldn't answer the riddle to open the door to fight the wizard because he was being stupid. And I was just like, well, if he doesn't know the riddle, I'm not going to give him any hints. And then he said, quick game. And it's like, all right. That was interesting.
Wow.
Brassheart and Elroy and the Aliens are both point and click adventures. They're odd in that they're, I guess they're made easier in the fact that they're made kind of with like the puppet system of graphics where things can swing. Mm-hmm. Brassheart, think of SteamWorld. It's kind of done in that style where everything can like swing on an axis, like almost like a puppet.
Yeah, it's like layered sprites, almost like the little paper mache or paper doll people with the little clip.
Fully voiced, kind of easy. Wasn't too bad though.
Mm-hmm.
Elroy and the Aliens was a little bit funnier, but by the time it started to take off, was the end of the demo. So I was like, well, thanks. That had more of an animated look to it, but it still looked like something was still being puppeteered, so to speak. So that was interesting.
All right. I'll have to check out some of those. I didn't really get a chance to mess with too many of the demos on that. All right. Chase, what about you? What you been doing?
Well, the list is huge, I know, but I've been doing Dynasty Warriors Origins. I've finally beat all 3 campaigns. I am working on the last hypothetical route of one of the campaigns, and I've got all but I think like one of the collectible weapons that you get from completing the challenges on the hardest difficulty. So
dang.
I just got to go through after I get the last hypothetical route done. I'll probably work on just completing a lot of the last like challenges on the hardest difficulty because each level has its own challenge, each battle.
So what do you mean by hypothetical route? Does it give you choices during the campaigns?
So hypothetical is like there's a route that like you'd normally take because that's what like kind of happened in the novel, or it's more historically accurate, even though it definitely takes its liberties. Well, it takes its liberties based on actual historical events, but it definitely takes its liberties.
Lubu shoots waves and stuff.
It's about as historically accurate as the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah, kind of. It's based on historical events, but so the hypothetical routes might be like this person is supposed to die at this in this battle at this certain time, but if you work your way to him fast enough, you can actually save him, or if you take out this person that's supposed to kill him, you can save him, type thing, and then it takes you on a different path.
Oh, okay.
So
Dynasty Warriors, what if?
Yeah, exactly. So I've done that. I just have to finish the last campaign, hypothetical route, and then I'll have that completed. So I'll pretty much almost like have the game done. We're pretty close to done with all the collectibles and everything, but it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
I'm about to say, it sounds like you've really been enjoying it because you've been playing it pretty consistently for a while.
Oh yeah, this is
right up
pretty
your
good.
He's taking a stalker break.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's definitely a lot of things that I think that Koei Tecmo could take away from this game to move forward. the game cuts off, the campaign's actually cut off like quite short as to what I was expecting. So I'm assuming that because the game sold fairly well by Dynasty Warriors standards, I think there's probably a chance that they're going to make a second one, or there'll be DLC or something that continues the story. That's my guess.
I would hope DLC, otherwise what are they going to call it? Origins 2?
Yeah, probably. And it's
the
not
Origins origin.
We've got Dynasty Warriors 10. It's not exactly like they necessarily
they can pull a Mortal Kombat and just call it Dynasty Warriors 1.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
But then it's going to be like, oh, do you mean the fighting game, or do you mean...
No, 1, not Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Lord. All right, so for myself, I've been still playing Avowed. I'm like 50 hours in and still going. I've made it to the 4th, which I think is the final area available in the world. I've been going through kind of getting some of the achievements, finishing side quests, the story's actually been fun and intriguing for me. And I've kind of set how I respond to stuff with the different characters to kind of follow through with it. But I'm also looking at it going, oh, okay, if I come back and I play this kind of character and like I'm a complete a-hole to everybody, or I'm just killing people left and right, and like it's like, oh, I could do all kinds of other crazy things as I go through. So I actually think I'm going to end up playing this more than once. I've got it set up to also play it on my Legion Go and on my laptop, so I can play it while I'm not home. But I've really been liking it. I've tended this time to play with a grimoire, which is like a spell book, and a wand, which is great because I found an ice one. And you can use that to shoot at water, or I found out later lava, and it'll make like a little ice piece or rock. So I'm just like hopping and skipping over like lava fields and other stuff to like, where can I go? And thankfully, a lot of the times I have actually found little hidden things. They're like, oh, okay, someone's going to be crazy enough to like hop and skip over this lava lake and try and make it down this lava waterfall and make it over here and like get something. But that's also led me to other spots where they're like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And if you just so much as attempt to jump towards it or touch it, you just die. Like you just fall over and it starts you back over. And I'm like, I found a no place. I'm not supposed to be there.
Do you think you fought every type of bear yet?
I think the bear thing is overblown. Like, so you're on an island, so it makes sense that you're going to have bears. And yes, there are a lot of them. There's also these lizard people that are living in different spots called Zarups. There's like a lot of the little mushroom people that are running around with different variety of them. There's like some plant people that thankfully I haven't had to fight too much because I've talked my ass out of that and they're friends with me now. Yay, speech options. I'll burn them to the ground next time though. When I come back, I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to raise all you guys down. But yeah, there's different communities there. But like I said, the whole game takes place on a big island. So yeah, you're going to have the same species in there. It's a giant forest with a coastal line, a volcanic area, and stuff like that, and a little desert spot. Yeah, there are a lot of bears. There's some pretty challenging ones, but I've not run into as many as I have like the Zarups and stuff. Hey, your cat's saying hi. That cat's hilarious. Yeah, he's super inquisitive right now. But I'm liking it. Like I said, I've been using the grimoire and the wand, and then if I switch, I've either been going between different maces and a pistol, which I can just shoot someone to stun them and then just club them over the head. Or I've started using like a bigger musket, which I've gotten a hold of some made out of like starfall metal that I found that does a lot of damage. And it's the first thing I got the achievement for leveling it all the way up to a full legendary. So that thing does some damage. And I can just smack the hell out of something. But I have a lot of fun just using magical spells and dropping like ice chunks out of the sky or raining down fireballs. One of my favorites is I can make a little black hole that everything in the area just kind of slowly gets sucked into it. So like they're spinning in the air, and then I just start a lightning storm right there, and you just watch them as they all get electrocuted. It's jumping between them. So it's a lot of fun, and I've had multiple people try and act like, well, it looks like it's Skyrim, and it's not. Very much not. It's more of a fast-paced combat where I'm having to dodge and move around and kind of figure out what weapons I'm going to use to control the groups, because you'll have different variables either by their difficulty, or there's some that can like spawn in different skeletons or like mystical spiders, which by the way, there's a lot of fucking giant spiders. Those things are nasty. Different kinds of them too. There's like some shamans and stuff that'll pop up that'll start healing stuff. And when I'm fighting a 3 skull set of 2 bosses while dealing with all their skeletons, and I'm like, why do they keep getting healed? And I see one guy at the top of the area, like the little green glow of him healing. I'm like, all right, you have to die. So I got to focus on that guy and take him out just to take out everybody else. But it's been great. A lot of fun with the story and the political side of it too. So I'm liking it. I know a lot of people were iffy about it, Steven. But I like it, so whatever. And then of course my other addiction has been Balatro, still playing that. I've made it. I've only got like 2-3 levels of the chips to go up. I've managed to work my way up on that. So I will continue. I got to the point I almost bought it digitally on my Switch just so I can play other games on my Switch because the cartridge slot is taken up by Balatro. And I'm like, I do have other games I should be playing, but I don't want to take this out of here. So I've been balancing like, it's $15 digitally. Should I? So we shall see. But enough about my stuff. Let's jump into the group chat here. So, yeah, late. This one's kind of a short one. Last week, whenever we didn't do the show and I had gotten back from the photography thing, Steven and I got together and we started playing Grounded, which I found out they had added in an option where you can kind of make your own world that is persistent, that you can set for up to, I think, 4 people to be able to access it and play, even if I'm not online. So we'll be able to, like, Chase, we could get you in on there. We can get Rachel in on it later.
I think even, what do you call it? Snow would like it because remember she wanted to play that Stranded Together we were doing because we were getting resources and stuff. It's kind of what it's like, but with the Obsidian touch to it.
I'm noticing the fact that that's 2 Obsidian games. I'm going to be fighting giant spiders. Like, I'm seeing a problem here. It's so many spiders. But yeah, we were having fun. That's actually the most I think I've played that game. I've messed around with it before, but like we're actually building like little settlements. You know, Steven basically built a tree fort. Climbing up in there.
Up there but us. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to make like little bases near the little science stations as I'm exploring about, doing more stuff underwater. Mostly running away from giant spiders. We haven't been able to kill those yet. They are still too big.
The giant ones, at least.
Yeah, the little ones I still try and stay away from. The grubs have been a pain in the butt. And of course, all the little mites everywhere. We made the mistake of pissing off the ant bed one time, which then chased us around everywhere.
And the stink bug.
Oh, God, the stink bug. That thing was terrible. We have to find a way to kill it because you have to kill the stink bug to then be able to make the stink bug mask so it doesn't affect you as much, which I get, but it's a pain. But the fact that they let us have a persistent world, I want to see how that works. Have you messed with it at all since we last played? I haven't had a chance to.
No.
Okay. I'll have to see if it's limited to just 4 people or if we can get more than that. If we can, we'll try and get Shano on there as well.
You mean like Rachel, 4 at one time, like if somebody doesn't make it type of thing?
Like 4 able to access the file. Like I think it's limited to who's actually part of it, and it may be limited to the 4 you're allowed to have.
How many kids are there?
There's 4.
So that might be, could only be 4.
Yeah, because it's even on normal multiplayer before, it was just up to 4 people at a time. Because it's basically just the 4 of you kind of exploring around. So we'll have to see. Maybe they'll let us do that or let people drop in, drop out, or we'll make another world. We can have more than one map. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm liking it. What have you been thinking about it, Steven? What'd you think?
As long as I don't lose any of my progress, I like it.
Well, I meant like the game itself. How are you enjoying it now that we've got a chance to play multiplayer?
It's not bad. It definitely helps to get more people now and then. And then it's, I get how, like, until we're ready to really take down something, we don't need to work together, which I appreciate. That we can kind of do our own thing. Like, I can be the homemaker making the base, and then you can just be the scientist looking for all the scientist points. So I was like, okay, you do that. I'm gonna
Lots
just
of
try to
running
gather
away.
things and make stuff so we can make bigger and better things.
Nice. All right, so we'll jump from that and go into our news for this week. So, first up, we have game announcements. We've actually had a couple of them announced recently, and the two I wanted to talk about, of course, Power Wash Simulator 2, coming out for PC, PS5, Series X and S, so it's leaving behind the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, moving just to the next gen. This is from Future Lab. Switch 2 seems likely, but we're getting back and forth. Like some people reporting, yeah, it's in the works, but they can't say anything yet. Future Labs came out and said no, but kind of hinted maybe. This is going to be on Switch 2. There's no way in hell they're going to just skip that. Even if it comes out later, it will be there. I'm fairly sure. But the biggest thing I was happy about is finally you can do co-op online and everybody's progress stays. Because just yesterday I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back, and I haven't played it in a while. So I booted it up on my Steam Deck. And I was like, oh, the train wasn't done. I was like, I thought I did this. No, I did this with one of you guys and nothing saved for me. So I had to start it over. And I'm like, damn it. So we'll have to see. But like, Steven, I know you're going to get this the day it comes out. I'm going to get this the day it comes out. Chris is probably going to get it shortly after. He doesn't seem like a day one person for me for most games. But Chase, what about you?
I'll probably get it for Series X just to go with my first one because I got it physical.
Oh, nice.
And just in case they reward you with, oh, we see you played the first one type thing.
I hope so. I might do it on Steam again for that, but we'll have to see. But Chase, is this one you're interested in at all?
Oh, yeah, I'll get it to play with you guys for sure.
So I wonder what kind of crazy DLC we'll get, because we went to many different places I did not expect in the first one, in such a wide range of going from like Wallace and Gromit to SpongeBob to Warhammer. Like,
I just hope they don't just get the visuals and like the logo, because it hurts not to, to have a license such as Wallace and Gromit, and because the dog can't talk, they use emojis, and it's just, I'm like, I really want voice for just the special ones, because you could hear a little bit of SpongeBob when you did some of the levels, but you hear none of Wallace and Gromit. And I'm like, but that's iconic. I'm not asking for a lot. It's just when you have something where it is voice based, like Warhammer is not. I get that, but
yeah,
but Wallace and Gromit, you want to hear Wallace. It's iconic voice.
it might be a little different because they're very protective of the voice for Wallace and Gromit. I think even in like the video games, they don't have him in there that much. SpongeBob, I think they have a video game specific actor for that. It's not the main guy, so they kind of have an imitator.
Well, the Telltale games, they all sounded like him, but
yeah, depends on, I don't know what the fee is. Or
unless it's SAG-AFTRA doing stuff right now, because the strike's been going on for a year.
Yeah, I didn't even expect. I haven't played that DLC yet. It's one of the ones I've got to pick up this week. But I didn't really expect to hear much of it. I knew you were playing as one of his robots running around that he made, so I was just assumed you'd be one of those just doing shenanigans outside of his care, because that's usually what happens. His robots go rogue, and you just deal with it. Freaking Norbot. So, the other game that we saw was from Konami. We saw the trailer for Silent Hill F. This is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. So, unlike the Silent Hill 2 remake, this is coming to everything day one. I watched the trailer literally right before you guys hopped on here. I was watching that whenever I was trying to figure out the audio issue with Steven, because he could not see or hear me at first. It was very annoying. But so this one looks like it's going to be taking place in a small Japanese town. It's not going to be in Silent Hill itself. So I know this isn't
the Japanese roots. Yeah.
Yeah. I know this isn't the first time that they've done something outside of the actual town of Silent Hill, because I believe Silent Hill 4 The Room took place in a city outside of Silent Hill, if I remember correctly. But a lot of the games normally are in the town. Go ahead, Steven.
There was a third game announced.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
It was Rainbow Six Siege X. which is going to be free to play. But if you want to play ranked modes or other modes, you need to purchase the full game, which they advertised as $30, and you get a bunch of operators and whatever. Or if you already own Rainbow Six Siege, then you're already in the premium edition. So essentially, you could buy it for $6 on Steam or something like that, and still get all the operators and stuff like that. So this is like everybody's call to arms. Like if you want to play Siege, get it that way. But free to play is always scary because it's like, while they didn't announce more monetization, they were like, well, if you played it previously, we're giving you a gun that's covered in ice. Yay, veteran stuff. And you get a emblem that says what year you started playing, so you can kind of celebrate your 5-year anniversary. It came out back in 2015.
It has been a while.
It's interesting if you watch the presentation, because it was a mess.
I had heard something about a 6v6 mode for that, and I thought it was just an extra mode. I didn't realize it was a new game announcement.
Yeah, 6v6, basically relaunching the game in the X version, basically. And then they promised to show somebody off at the end who's like synonymous with Rainbow Six Siege, but he never showed up, so they just canceled the show at the end.
That's terrible. All right, so let's jump into our next bit here. So HellDivers 2 is coming to tabletops. Friendly fire will be intact, so don't worry. So a crowdfunding campaign via GameFound is coming from game maker Steamforge, who previously brought games like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter to game tables everywhere. And then the quote from them, HellDivers 2, the board game, will match the fast-paced, tactical, tongue-in-cheek energy of the video game, plunging 1 to 4 players into an intergalactic struggle to protect Super Earth and rid the galaxy of alien threats in the name of liberty and democracy. Armed with deadly weapons, such as pistols, machine guns, and flamethrowers, powerful stratagems like the turrets, airstrikes, etc., and coordinated tactics, players will work in squads to complete high-risk missions, navigate hostile battlefields, call in reinforcements, and overcome enemy swarms. Just as in the video game, players will need to contend with evolving threats and objectives, as well as watch out for explosions and friendly fire. Every decision can mean the difference between glorious victory of total annihilation and service of Super Earth, with the crowdfunding campaign beginning April 8th. So, I know, Chase, you've already said you guys are probably backing this.
No, yeah.
Go ahead, Stephen.
I'm waiting for next announcement to be due to the immense undertaking that translating into other languages it would take, that this will not be available in over 180 countries.
I'm waiting for them to say you have to have the PlayStation app on your phone, scan a QR code every time you play, and log into your PlayStation network to be able to play it.
Yeah, you need a companion app.
It probably will have a companion app.
And you have to sign
up. Kind of makes sense. Do some of their other games have companion apps? Honestly?
Steamforged, I've played a couple other games, but I'm not entirely sure. But there's actually companion apps are starting to just be kind of a common thing you see with especially a lot of heavy games. Like, Shano and I have, Return to Dark Tower, the Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle Earth, and I think there's a couple other ones that we have that actually do run companion apps. I know the Witcher board game does. The XCOM board game does. The XCOM board game is actually really good, but it's out of print, so it's a bit hard to get, but it's actually really well done. Companion apps aren't really uncommon, and I imagine with like running like the galaxy map and everything like that, that's all going to be companion app, more than likely.
That'd be kind of a fun way to connect it.
I want like a random quote generator that says like, "Let them fight, let them brawl," or it's just for liberty.
I looked at some of the pictures they had from this, and of course they've got like the super detailed like of the bugs and other stuff, and I'm like, how much of that is going to actually translate to the finished product, and we're not just getting what looks like 3D printed all one color models. It's like, look how fabulous it is. All right, here's these. We just made them. Here you go.
Could be pewter for all you know, though.
Miniatures are getting to be very common with board games. Like the whole miniature, the whole idea of like, where miniatures used to be just kind of in the wargaming genre. they've translated over to the board games quite
when
well.
Trying to see if my
that
Star
Shin
Trek
Megami Tensei board
moved
game
it.
got funded, that game has a metric ton of figurines.
Miniatures
Go ahead.
also tend to translate into more expensive games, though.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Which
Board
I
games
get the
get very
miniatures.
expensive very quickly with miniatures.
I've seen them before where like they show off and it looks really nice. They're painted and detailed, and then when the actual product comes out, they're just like solid red, like molded plastic, and that's it. Or even I've seen 3D printed, and it's just like, come on, like you're showing the good stuff. Give us something better.
They're not going to color them. That's going to be up to you if you want to paint them and actually
call Henry Cavill. He'll help you out.
Yeah.
I could see them maybe if they had like one big one or something that's in there that might be painted, and the rest of them are smaller colors. I mean, I say that the last board game I've actually bought recently is that Star Trek one, and I'm still shocked at the detail of those ships. Like they're in scale to each other, even down to like the Defiant and some of the Jem'Hadar ships. And I'm like, these are really nice. Like, I'm trying to get people over here so we can play it because it's 2 players, and I'm like, no one wants to play.
No, that'll be one we definitely back. I'm definitely excited for it to give it a try, and then when I come over to the States, I'm definitely bringing it with me because we'll have to play it. Let's see what shenanigans we can get up to.
When you come to the States, if I can't get work to send me at some point, I may just have to bite down and just get a plane ticket and fly my ass up there because we need to all get together, like all of us actually meet, and then we'll try and get Rachel to join in. That's up to her. I'm not buying her ticket; she has to buy her own. So yeah, we joke about it, but this does actually seem like it could be a hilarious board game to play with a group of people, especially with friendly fire. Like you are going to have so many mishaps of like, oh, my bad, I took you out. I didn't mean to. Especially if they have like a way to roll or have something go wrong, like you get bumped and just drop the grenade early, or you call down right on top of you, like we have done multiple times. Oh,
the only problem is I can't just like throw a grenade without saying that I'm throwing a grenade now. So it's like it's not going to be the same.
Well, you usually told us you were throwing something after we saw it
flip
coming
the table
down,
and be like, mission failed.
Oh man, flipping the table for liberty. God, that joke is going to come up so many times in the middle of playing that. Just liberty this, liberty that.
Make it a drinking game. You have to drink if you say liberty.
You'll never finish the game. There'll be a lot about like liver poisoning.
Super Earth, you have to chug.
God, could you imagine if they had like a little, like if you remember the old, like late 80s, early 90s board games, like that little sound box that just plays the theme and like this little flag that you have to wait for it to come. Like a whole beginning mission when you start up. That would be fantastic. So, all right, let's move on to our next bit. All right, so Moon Studios, the makers of the Ori series of games, has finally gone fully independent after getting the rights for their upcoming No Rest for the Wicked title, along with their previous Ori series from Take-Two Interactive. So their upcoming game was to be published by Private Division, but after Take-Two sold the publisher to a still unnamed party in 2024, this was kind of up in the air. There has been some rumors or people talking about that the people, you remember, it was about a year ago, we talked about all the people from Annapurna, I think is how it's pronounced. They all quit after everything was going. They had a walkout. Well, apparently those people are working with a funding company that may be involved in trying to run it or purchase it. So they may be coming in on that. So we'll see. Maybe that's their return. But at least now Moon Studios can, work on their game and get better help publishing it and going from there instead of it just being sold off. Because when Take-Two sold off all their stuff, they sold the rights to those games as well. So they
forget that the second Ori game was made by the creator of a Metroid 2 remake. So.
Mm-hmm. They're both really good. And any of the versions you play are fantastic, including the Switch one. They did a phenomenal job on both versions of the game for Switch. So if that's the only one you play, you're still good. It does run and look fantastic on the Series X because it's running like full 4K, all the bells and whistles, but it's not absolutely necessary to enjoy it. So, yep, definitely glad to see them going out there, because we've seen so many studios closing down and losing their games. It was kind of nice to hear about one going, hey, we got our stuff back. We get to keep making our games. I don't know if we'll see an Ori 3. I guess it all depends on how No Rest for the Wicked goes, or even what in the world No Rest for the Wicked is. I didn't see too much about it, but who knows? All right, let's move on. So next up, the World Video Game Hall of Fame 2025 finalists have been announced. The results we'll get from this list on May 8th. This actually happened on the week we were off, but I wanted to talk about it because this is kind of an interesting collection of possible invokees. So the games they chose are nominated this year, the finalists, we have Age of Empires, Angry Birds, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Defender, Frogger, GoldenEye 007, which ironically, this is the second time it was nominated. It did not make it in last time. Golden Tee, Harvest Moon, Mattel Football. I'm actually working on one of those right now to fix for one of my coworkers. Quake, NBA 2K, and Tamagotchi. So the World Video Game Hall of Fame chooses the games based on the following metrics. Icon status, which is the game is widely recognized and remembered. Longevity, the game is more than a passing fad and has enjoyed popularity over time. Geographical reach, the game meets the above criteria across international boundaries. And influence, the game has exert significant influence on the design and development of other games, on other forms of entertainment, and on popular culture and society in general. I know Angry Birds got a movie, but I don't think that one counts.
I was like, by those metrics, Angry Birds doesn't really work on there.
I think in the purest form, I get why it's in there. Angry Birds was a huge phenomenon when that first came out, and it was actually a really good game. It was one of the first ones I can think.
But it copied another game.
A lot of games copy other games, and it just depends on which one makes it out first, or not even, or makes it like big. Actual popularity. Yeah.
I hope myself that either GoldenEye makes it in, Tamagotchi makes it in, or Quake.
I think Frogger needs to be in there just because Amanda is her favorite game. Like I have to simp for Frogger. I don't care.
Biased.
Yeah, it's biased. I don't give a damn.
I voted for Astrobot for Game of the Year.
You know what? That was actually a really good game. That's right. I'm a Sony shill, even though I don't ever turn on my PS5.
Sony pony.
Chase, go ahead. You were gonna say something.
How many of these actually would get selected? Then is the.
I think it's only like 4 or 5 of them, I believe. They weren't talking about how many would get in there, but they have a series of panelists that will vote, talking about for how they want to have these go in, and then we can go in and vote, and that'll be accrued to count as like one vote to go with them. I don't know how much of an effect that would honestly have, but at least
as much effect as the Game Awards.
Probably more. I would trust their judgment on this better than the Game Awards.
I'm sending a flaming bag of dog shit to whoever votes for Angry Birds.
This is wrong. I do think all of these games deserve to be on here. I know we don't agree with how Angry Birds turned out later on, but the game itself is just like with Tamagotchi. Like Tamagotchi is
still available,
but it became a very terrible thing for a while, just a mess of people copying it and doing stuff. I still have my Game Boy boxed copy of it, which is hilarious. Mattel Football is pushing it on the early parts of gaming, but talking with my coworker, he is older than I am, and that was a big thing for them. Like he actually explained how the lights worked, and I was like, "Oh God, you can actually kind of play a football game on this." Like I know it's late 1970s, but okay, that's kind of neat. I could never understand it until they explained it to me when I was trying to fix it. So that helped. Golden Tee. I think that's a bigger effect than I would have given credit for once you realize how
you're drinking.
Those things are everywhere. Like Golden Tee has become like its own little pocket thing. Like, there's a whole groups around it. There's tournaments, using that cue ball on there to basically whenever they're, putting or anything. Do you guys remember when Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare came out? The hype and everything around that?
2000. Oh, yeah.
That was That
that
got me excited.
that one honestly is definitely has like the influence and exerting its influence in spades over the industry.
Any of us Age of Empires fans?
Yeah.
I played them some. I played it more on DS, which
Yeah,
is not the best way to play it.
I like RTSs. I'm just terrible at them. But I mean, you can't
True.
really. I don't think you can necessarily argue its influence on the RTS genre. Like it's quite a mainstay.
Yeah,
StarCraft, you could probably argue, is a little bit bigger of an influence in the RTS genre, but
StarCraft, I think, is definitely an international effect because that has become. That's still a big thing in a lot of places, I believe, today.
Oh, yeah. StarCraft 2 is massive.
So we'll find out in May, early May, what comes of this. I meant to look up and see what got in from last year, but I kind of ran out of time. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. All right, now on to some really shitty AI news. Which is AI news. It's all just shitty. That's just how it goes. So multiple game companies have been found using AI in some bad ways again. We're shocked. I know. So Sony had a demo of theirs leaked. This was never intended to go public, but somebody decided it was really bad and released it. But they're using Aloy, a character from a cautionary tale game about AI robotics destroying the world. They made an AI version of Aloy that could interact and talk and do things to basically show what they were capable of doing with it for voice acting and animation and so forth. This ended up leading to a response from the character's actual voice actress, Ashley Birch, that came out against the idea of AI taking the jobs of voice actors as well as removing the humanity from the art of making games itself. Sony quickly turned around working with a company, wasn't really named very well, but it's one that they've worked with before, to basically scour the internet and put copyright strikes on everybody that had the video trying to take it down. So there were accounts that were dropped because of this and people's posts were taken down and so forth. But I'm sure if you look hard enough, it's on there because as Sony will learn and many others have learned, it's the internet. Once it's on there, good luck. You're not getting rid of it. It will keep coming back. So before we move on to the second half, do you guys have any thoughts about this whole AI thing from Sony?
I'll wait till after we've talked about both of them.
Okay. The other one's almost, it's egregious in its own way.
And then I'll have something to add after the second part.
Okay. So the second half of this is good old Activision. Yeah, you were bought by Microsoft, but you still got that stink on you. So Activision has been found to be using AI-generated art to push the idea of games they haven't even done anything with, any design work or anything, as a tool to gauge interest in certain titles. So these have included some Call of Duty zombie titles, a Crash Bandicoot fighter, and more. Basically, they put the images out from their actual marketing team who are posting these. You click on it, and it takes you to a website that says the game doesn't exist, but it could, and then wants you to fill out a survey. So they're basically making AI slop to throw out to kind of ask for interest on things or gauge interest, and then want you to get that data from them by filling out these forms.
I like the Guitar Hero one that had all 4 people playing the same guitar.
Yeah, it's terrible, but yeah, y'all go ahead and just eviscerate this. It deserves it. Have fun. Chase, you want to start us off?
No, let Swan go first.
Okay.
So it's getting worse, not in the AI generated sense, but it's the biggest I want to say crutch or biggest demand that the SAG-AFTRA with video games is doing is they want AI protections. And it basically says they just want you to ask permission, they want to be compensated, and they want to know what it's being used for. So they're not, the same way Crispin Glover changed Hollywood with trying to use his likeness in Back to the Future too. But what we're seeing with these, they're not doing it yet. Aloy, who cares about whoever her name is. Well, that one was kind of like jarring, and it had to have Gorilla tell Birch that it was just a concept.
Mm-hmm.
But in more serious terms, because these companies aren't about to say we're going to give you those protections, we've already had the Call of Duty, all the actors from the Call of Duty zombie games. Thankfully, they weren't like bigger ones and like in past games, but all those actors have been replaced because they all basically just quit.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bigger one that's happened because people are noticing it is already recently 2 more voice actors have been replaced in ZZZ. So when you log in, they basically erased the voice actor and put a new voice actor who just sounds slightly different.
Oh,
And
wasn't aware of
one
that.
of them basically it was because she quit.
Right.
Because she's like, you're not going to do protections for me. The other one is a little hazier what happened, but he might have left because he just wasn't as available as they would like. Because what I didn't like was this is a live service game, so when they have a new season that has its own cutscenes or interactions with the characters,
Mm-hmm.
because that character is not available to voice it, they're silent while everybody else who's present and accounted for gets their voice acted. And it's very jarring to, to say watch a cutscene, because if you can imagine this, you're watching a cutscene and all the other characters are talking, but then the person whose voice actor doesn't show up, suddenly that one's subtitled, and that's it. They're not. You don't hear anything. It's quiet except for maybe the environment or the ambiance. But it's just another one where the AI, nope, we're replacing that one as well.
Mm.
Um, so far it's been ZZZ, it's been Call of Duty Zombies, and then it's also been Hades 2, where they took another person out, and that company gave you a PR speak saying like, oh, something didn't align or something like that, and we're a good company, we promise. But it's like, no, you replaced a voice actor who didn't like that you weren't going to give AI protections. So it's like that's going to be detrimental if they don't turn it around.
Hopefully that is, because like people, the problem, a lot of it is not just the companies, but like there's a lot of the users that just don't understand or care. One of the things I was going to cover a little bit later on, George Lowe, when he passed away recently, he was the voice actor for Space Ghost on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. There were people I would see comments about going like, why, they were younger kids, they didn't grow up or watch a lot of that stuff, but they're like, why is it a big deal? They can just redo them with AI, or we can make them say other stuff. And I'm like, you're fucking little zombies. Like, that's terrible to do that, because this guy made that character. Like, Gary Owens was the original Space Ghost voice actor, and then whenever George Lau came in, Lowe, to do it on the show, he kind of made his own version of it, which was absolutely hilarious and still cracks me up to this day. But I'm okay with somebody else taking on the role of it, but it should be a person to do that. It's an actual creative to bring their voice to it literally. So, Chase, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm not a fan of it by any stretch. Like, there's definitely a lot of like moral and ethical issues that are coming up with AI and stuff, but it's one of these things where it's tough because these companies aren't going to offer you protections. Like, a lot of companies aren't going to offer protections because they don't have to. They don't need to. They don't want to. And like, it's hard. This is a tough thing that we tried, because essentially, like, this is, what did they say? This is like the 4th or 5th industrial revolution. Basically, this is what AI is kind of leading towards us. And
that's what they want it to be, but yeah.
Well, it's going to be. We can't stop it. Like, just like the people who worked in the automotive factories couldn't stop the assembly line coming through. And look how well that turned out. All those people were without jobs and turned to alcoholism and suicide. So, like, it's a fact of life. Like, the companies are going to find ways to do things more efficiently and cheaply. And like, and the problem is like, I mean, it's their prerogative to do with their properties as they want. So at the end of the day, like, we can vote with our wallet. If we don't like that they're doing this type of practice, then you can't buy it or don't buy it. But it's hard. Like, you know, I'm looking at this from like a semi devil's advocate perspective of like, I don't like what they're doing, but I just kind of see like it is what's going to probably happen. And we're going to have to make the best of it, the best of a shitty situation.
I think with a lot of it, they need to be able to put those guardrails in place because you are using, and even if it's an audio form, someone's likeness, and that should be a protected thing. Steven, you were going to say something?
So I have a question to pose to you guys.
Okay.
So when you have games that are so big, so huge,
Mm-hmm.
that there's literally thousands of characters that really are not essential to anything, they're just there for ambiance. Do you agree with Ubisoft that using it for NPCs would be fine and not story essential NPCs, ones that you walk by and they say like good day or come get a new sword today or something like that?
No, because how many times do you remember background characters, weird conversations, or particular lines and funny ways they're delivered, intentional or not, that that come up? And it's not just a generated thing. There were people that were putting those touches in there. You know, they may have said it a certain way. Like every bit of it is creative form. I would rather have the main cast voiced and then just read lines from other people if they're going to have the writers in there and you're not going to actually have people create and do stuff, which is what a lot of RPGs do. Not everyone talks.
Because it's interesting. Because I looked into it, while Chase was talking,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently, Diablo, the newest one, Hades, Persona, and No Man's Sky use AI for NPCs because they've got way too many people in it to speak. So, in order to, I guess, not stretch out or not have to pay the voice actors more to say, hey, can you come back and talk for student A through Z or something like that? They're just like, we'll just use a AI for it instead because it's just going to be a nondescript, how are you doing today? Or something like that.
I'm kind of
I'm actually
wondering
for that.
I'm kind of wondering with No Man's Sky where that fits because no one speaks English. It's all different weird alien languages, and half the point is finding
and
the
that's
stuff
probably
to
what they did.
translate it.
They just said, come up with an alien language that sounds like this, and AI pumps out gobbledygook as a new language.
Because I mean, even with that stuff, like for animals, grunts, or weird noises, there's well-known voice actors that do that a lot as part of their job. Blanking on the names of some of them right now,
Well,
but
because I know like there's iconic ones, so you can't replace D. Bradley Baker as any of the locusts. It's very difficult, especially when he can do that without any computer.
it's amazing how he does
That's
that.
pretty
And
impressive.
and then you have somebody like Michael Winslow, who Mel Brooks said famously it saved him $1,000 because Michael Winslow could do all the sound effects during his scene. So there's like little things like that, but just like Chase is playing his own devil's advocate, I'm doing the same as
No, I
saying
get it. Yeah,
when if I doubt they at some point the Sims is basically probably just using AI for their Simlish and not.
that's a whole thing. Like they've had voice actors record it. They even brought in musicians to record Simlish versions of their actual songs. Like
But I'm saying if the game gets so big that there's just like thousands of Sims that all they do is they interact with you, and they're just something that is part of an instance where they just come back and like, here's your mail today, but in Simlish. I don't see why they couldn't use AI for that. The
see,
same way
normally
you play Final Fantasy games back in the day,
Mhm.
and the only focus of that one person you talked to was "Welcome to Town A." So it's like, I don't mind that you're AI if you're going to say "Welcome to Town A" because nobody knows the voice actor who said "Welcome to this town."
They didn't know them when they said welcome to this town, but they might know them later as their career moves on. If you don't have a place to start, how do you go anywhere else? That's like saying we're going to make, this McDonald's is we're going to have AI run the cook part. Well, then, a lot of people that start off as a cook might move up to be a manager, then move up to, run a franchise, do all this other stuff. You have to have a place to start. And the more you take out that lower level, you're chopping the legs off of everybody else going above them. So that's kind of the thing for that as well.
Yeah, there's an argument that AI is going to end up taking away a lot of jobs in like retail, and obviously the one famous one that's been talked about a lot lately is self-driving trucks. Truck driving is, and my parents own a trucking business, small business owner. They self-driving trucks. I mean, truck driving is one of the most, it's the highest paying job that somebody without a college degree can get. You can, if you're willing to put in the long hours and stuff. I mean, you can make six figures. You can make a really decent wage off of that. And, there was the famous argument that was made by the, I can't remember, I think it was the governor of California at the time that said, because they asked him, what are you going to do with all these people who don't have a college degree and don't, can't, like, how are you going to expect some 50-year-old dude without a college degree to just, what do you expect him to do after he loses his job? That's what everybody said, he can learn to code. That's where the famous learn to code joke came from. And
there's a lot of places wanting to do code with AI, which
exactly, it's just unfortunately the problem is like with what Swad said with the Winslow saving Mel Brooks a bunch of money doing all the sound effects. That's basically everybody wants their Winslow. They want a way to save money doing sound effects, doing all this work that they would initially have to pay somebody for.
Well, look at Frank Welker.
In terms of self-driving cars, though, like some of it, I feel, if implemented correctly, could be more of a assistance, kind of like autopilot.
No, I get that.
When you're at a certain point, like
assistance is one thing. Like if you're just putting on cruise control on the interstate or something, like I don't mind that. But to just say like, yeah, we don't actually need like truck drivers anymore.
Yeah, no, that's going too far because I still feel there has to be oversight, and the oversight can be either large if it's like a large amount of people, if it's something where you need to kind of like oversee what it's doing, or something where it's just one person who has to just check the code to make sure like it's doing its job. Because some guy who's gone wacky now, I'm not going to mention his name because he's a muskrat, but some people went from they need to keep this in check because things can get out of hand to, let it go. It's like, no, you were right to in the beginning to say keep it in check. It needs to be checks and balances even on AI, because again, and I've said this with anytime I hear the word AI, I was like, is it pulling from internal or is it pulling from everything? Because if you pull from internal, it's basically like teaching a new hire at the job how to work. And if it's pulling from everywhere, then it's somebody Googling, how do I attach a radar in Texas? And just going by whatever Galaxy AI tells them. So that you could see how that can make some problems because you don't know where that's pulling from.
My favorite one recently was talking about somebody asked it, is Daredevil blind? And it came back going like, no, he can see just fine. It's like, you don't understand the difference of blind versus other stuff.
It's gotten better with giving you the links on the side and after each AI input where it's gotten it from. But then you find out some of the ones that are horribly wrong is because they pulled it from a post on social media. And I was like, you don't do that.
Yeah. It's turning great sarcasm into a terrible tool. So, like I said, AI can be used as a proper tool. And we've talked about this before for, managing large amounts of data and stuff like that. But I think when you're talking about game development outside of tools to help things along, there needs to be a human component to it because gaming is art and art should be people. I'll stretch it and be like, oh, well, we've got penguins that step on paint and run across a painting. I'm like, all right, fine. You can have your painting.
But I'll agree that if they want to pay a designer to say design a dozen buildings, and then if you get into an airplane, AI randomly takes those design and generates more buildings. If the person's compensated, then I was just like, I think that would be fine because you don't want to overwork the person. Like you don't want to get into crunch either. Telling the guy who already made a dozen building designs, I need 400 more.
And see, a lot of those, they've built up different tools to handle that, where like you could paint over areas and it basically fills in the buildings and it'll have algorithmically do stuff, which is a lot of what happens with like No Man's Sky, which I still find weird with the AI stuff of if that was something they admitted to or something else. Cause I haven't heard anything about them using AI, just the algorithms of it. It's all based off the math of how they structure the world.
Again, it's probably not something that is to the forefront or is an issue right now because it's not.
Yeah, because like the alien designs are all, you can tell they're all made from sections and pieces, and they're just kind of randomly put together in different parts and things like that.
As far as I know, most of the time when really bit characters or useless characters are voiced, it's usually either done by the actual development team, or in other cases they ask the voice actor, can you also be like guy A, D, J, K, Z? And it's like they could have they could have just like, I don't need to hear Matt Mercer also voice somebody in the crowd as well as my character.
I'd rather an actual person get paid to do that than just the more, you start off as it's just this little bit is going to grow. We're just, well, this person's not as important. Let's include them. They're not as important. Let's include
somebody
them.
who started at that, because I don't believe that anybody's ever kind of started as being a background thing in a game.
I think
people
the
have to
problem
start
is that
somewhere.
I think the problem is that like we're looking at it from the human perspective, which is, because we're not assholes. Yeah, it's like,
I appreciate that, Chase.
but like I made the comment once to one of my managers. I said, like I'm fine with AI as a tool to like make people's jobs easier and stuff. But then like my manager said, he's like, yeah, but then the problem is, he's like, are you really going to expect the company to pay you the same amount of money when you have this tool that's making your job like super easy? It's like, well, okay, I got a point. Like when you look at it from a business perspective, it's like, well, I'm not getting the same level of work out of you anymore because of this tool. So do I need to pay you as much because your work's gotten a lot easier now? And it's like, I get it. And the other problem too is we live in the shareholder era. I've said it a million times.
Oh yeah, money. Ugh.
Like companies have an obligation to make as much money as possible. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I think what could potentially be, what could potentially turn us around, I can speak, I promise, is that we've seen a lot more companies going private again. A lot of smaller companies are going private, so that could potentially be a turnaround. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just kind of this inconvenient truth, so to speak, now.
Pray for Discord, because they said they might go public.
Yeah, I was like super worried when I heard that. I was like, no, you've been so good, then you're gonna go terrible. But who knows?
Yeah.
So I looked it up with some of the careers. Frank Welker started off as just playing background and bit parts. And he's one of the most prolific voice actors out there for playing everything from different animals, Transformers, so many characters throughout the years. But he was just an extra when he started.
Yeah.
That's just one that I looked up real quick for some of it. But people have to start somewhere.
It's definitely happened. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's just,
I wasn't saying Steven was saying it wasn't going to happen. I didn't mean that at all.
And that's cartoons. That's not games. So I
don't see a difference. I honestly don't. Voice acting is voice acting.
There's never been 1,000 voice actors in a cartoon.
True, but
that's why. I think at some point you got to be like, we're working them too hard.
Games are just getting bigger and bigger too, which you could also say is part of the problem.
Eventually, everything battle royal.
Realistically, it has to have a limit. Realistically, everything has to have a limit. You can't expect every single thing to be voiced. It's like I'm playing Avowed right now, and there is so much voice acting, but there's a lot of people. They're doing stuff, and I'll walk up, and they just will not talk to me. They won't interact. You try and say anything, and someone will be like, "Oh, well, it's not realistic. They're not talking." Well, this area, they don't like my race of people. Adirans are, considered imperialists and so forth. So they don't want to talk to me. It's like, kind of makes sense. And then there's a lot of them that are talking, or they have little conversations. I can pick up they do a really good job with the surround sound. I'll hear all kinds of conversations about like, oh, we got to go find food, or my husband, he went off to go hunting and hasn't been seen, and like that's led me to different missions, or just background conversations about politics and stuff.
That's why I don't mind how ZZZ does it, because not one person will speak during every other part of the game unless it's either battle, what they call special events that they flash across the screen, and then they show their animation portraits talking to each other with mouth movement and everything. But if you're just, they won't even move their mouths if you're just like in the overworld talking and stuff like that. And, other than having their greeting like welcome in, if they have a huge story to tell, like, you can kind of just read through it really quick. So I appreciate the fact that when they are like, we're going to talk about something important, so we're going to voice that. But if you're just going to like do a quick, what they call like, spending time with them to get like your relationship up and stuff like that, they're like, unless it's an event, if it's just you grinding, we're not voicing any of that. That's wasteful. So I was like, yeah, I get that.
Gotcha.
Dynasty Warriors Origins doesn't use any AI, but it's just talking about like how big games are, like the budgets, everything. Dynasty Warriors, you could tell, was made on a budget. Like, yeah, when you play that game, if you like Swan played the demo. I don't know if you played the demo, Jeremy, but when Swan played the demo, he probably knows what I'm talking about here, because like when the characters talk, like their mouth just does this, and like it doesn't match up to the talking at all or whatever. Their mouth is just kind of moving to simulate that they're talking and stuff, but like nobody cares, because as long as your character design looks good and the gameplay's fun, like nobody gave a shit.
I only want the character's mouth to move with the voice of the original language it was created for. If it's translated into other languages, it's like, don't use AI to change their lips. Just let them talk like they did back in those movies when something was subtitled or dubbed.
The old Godzilla movies, that was a classic. I loved it.
Let it happen.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next point, but we're going to take a pause real quick, and most of you won't even notice, but I need to check something outside real quick. All right, and we're back. Hopefully that was inconsequential and nobody noticed it, but yeah, neighbor had workout equipment they'd stuck next to the house, one of those big full self gyms that just blew over, and I was worried to hit my AC. It didn't, thank God. So, all right. I don't remember if I had one on there. I'll do it again just to make sure. But next up, Microsoft is working on a new handheld system. Now, we have talked about this before, about the possibility of them doing this. This is a little bit more concrete, but also a little bit different than people anticipated. So, slated for later this year, they have a handheld codenamed Keenan that looks to have the hardware itself developed by Asus, the makers of the ROG Ally and Ally X. So, as Steven, as I think you worded earlier, this is basically just a ROG Ally with Xbox painted on it, which is fine. They're at least teaming up with somebody, and they'll kind of make that their main one or whatever.
Does anybody have any experience with the ROG Ally? Like, is it good?
I didn't get it because two things. The first models, and they fixed it since then, so don't take this as the worst thing. It was melting SD cards because its vent was right there by the micro SD slot, and it got too hot. They fixed it, and a lot of people do enjoy it. The other reason I didn't get one was because it does not have any kind of touchpad, which if you're running a PC type thing, which it is, Steam Deck has 2 of them. My Legion Go has 1. I think 1 is a minimum, because it lets you play PC games. Like, you could play Age of Empires on this thing and use the touchpad like a mouse. So hopefully they include that, because it would be kind of nice. But this could be part of Microsoft's update handheld PCs, where they're wanting to modify Windows to work in conjunction with them better than they do now. Because at the moment, the Windows operating system is a pain in the butt on those portable systems. Steam is phenomenal on the Steam Deck. You're limited by how many games you can play because it's running Linux, but the interface is top notch. Like, it's the gold standard over. It's the closest thing to the Switch I could think of.
Updated it yesterday too.
Yep, they've been keeping it up to date and things. If it could run Windows games and stuff, I think that would put it over the top. Which is why I have my Legion Go that I also bought from that one's not Asus. That's Lenovo. That one's a full Windows PC. It has the touchpad. The interface is not as good because you're dealing with Windows, but the gameplay, like there's more options. So if Microsoft finishes where they can make a handheld PC mode or tablet mode for Windows that functions correctly, that would help get them in that space and take advantage of the hardware that's already there. So it's cool that they're making handhelds, kinda, but I'm more excited to see them support the existing hardware than just make new ones, if that makes sense. And I think, Steven, you also pointed out this does not mean it plays Xbox games. So if you've got a game on Xbox, it's only going to support
Xbox Play Anywhere games and Game Pass Ultimate.
Sorry. Yeah, Game Pass Ultimate, Play Anywhere, or specifically PC release, because not all Microsoft games have console releases, but if they're PC, that's what it's intended for. So basically, this is just a better interface for what you can play Xbox-wise in a computer. I think it's the best way to look at this. So that's definitely a good point to bring up, Stephen. So thank you on that one. Would this be something either of you would be curious about?
Me, probably more than Steven, because I know Steven's already got Steam Deck.
Yeah, because he's left out of certain games sometimes because it's like, I don't have a PC, and these games aren't like rough on the power. It's stuff like Content Warning or Lethal Company. Those things are not pushing the boundaries of graphics.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I am interested. I've been looking at maybe do like a Steam Deck, or I want to get a proper PC at some point, just regardless. But I definitely like the idea of having something like that, maybe just so that way I could play. It opens up more games that I could play with you guys and stuff.
Yeah, the Legion Go I really like. Like I said, the interface is rough, but power-wise, it's really impressive what it does. Shit speakers, wear headphones. It has the worst built-in speakers. They are so hollow.
Yeah, I'm in the boat that I purchased specifically the Valve Steam Deck because I believe all the copycats are riding the wave, and they'll eventually give up. And I don't think Valve is going to throw in the towel anytime soon. So I think in terms of support, I feel that Steam Deck will go the longest in terms of support and updates.
My argument with that, though, Steam Deck, just like our conversation earlier of who did it first, Steam Deck is not the originator of doing this. They're just the most popular since it came out. There were portable Windows handhelds way before that worked at different degrees of success.
Yeah, and wasn't there like NVIDIA Shield or something?
That was another big one. They've been going around for a while.
NVIDIA Shield was like the PlayStation Portal, garbage.
Well, the NVIDIA Shield basically became the Switch. Like literally, it's the same hardware.
Yeah. Because that one, the biggest crutch they had was just like you had to have your PC on somewhere.
That was for the streaming part. They did make a version of it that could play some stuff locally, but yeah, that's a whole different thing. But like, I get it. If you already have a Steam Deck, it wouldn't be interesting in jumping into that. I have a Steam Deck and the Legion Go because I wanted to cover both bases, where I have the portability and interface of the Steam Deck, and it's limited amount of games, which is great. I say limited in very air quotes. There's a shit ton of games you can play on it. And then the Legion Go, which opens up all of my other games, including all my stuff from Epic Games, EA Connect, Ubisoft, Xbox, and so forth. Like, it's great having a wider variety, but not as clean of an interface. It's kind of a back and forth. If Microsoft can give me a better interface on that Windows part, I will play that more often. So,
because Valve is saying that they're working on dual boot, and once they get that perfected, then that's the ace in the hole right there.
I'm curious to see, that would be a Microsoft's benefit anyways. They're gonna be like, hey, we'll make this handheld, we'll team up with Asus. If Steam Deck can support it as well, Microsoft's gonna be like, cool, this is also an Xbox. Like, they'll just bring in their advertising again, like they've been doing. I know when people tried to run Windows on it, which mind you was not optimized, it ran really rough. So I'd have to see what their optimization would be.
That's why they said they're working on it. They wouldn't. Yeah, they're fine with people trying, but they're like, we're working on it. We'll let you know when we've gotten it. Because they just did a great update that was originally just for the OLED models. Is they're like, oh no, LCD can now be woken up from the Bluetooth controllers, and I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think I can do that. I don't know if I can do it with the Legion Go. I have to look and see. I mostly just use it in handheld, but like that's one that it's bulkier, but like I can do ray tracing on that one to a surprising amount for different games, which works out well. I can play Avowed on it, which does integrate that and runs really well. Forza, I play, a lot of other titles on it that specifically a lot of them that I cannot play on my Steam Deck. So I want to see how that kind of works out. You can't really go wrong either way. It all depends on what kind of games you want to play. If you are already invested with a lot of Xbox, then this could benefit you. There's a lot of titles that carry over, and if you have them digitally, that is at least they give you an advantage if you have digital titles. I hate the ones that are just stuck digitally and they go nowhere else.
I will say that at least the Steam Deck is the most affordable in case you're
100%.
You're like me and your consoles as well, because they have refurbished ones. They have the older models, which is LCD, which for a lot of people that doesn't make a difference. Game's a game.
My LCD looks great.
Especially
I don't care.
if you're going to dock it and play it on your TV sometimes, it's not going to matter to you.
Yeah, the OLED has like a minimal jump in a few things, but not enough to really warrant the big difference. So I'm excited to see what they've got coming out, and they've still have their rumored hardware that they're working on. That's supposed to be the handheld's supposed to be this year. The hardware is supposed to be shown next year. So we'll see where that goes.
I know you're waiting for the companion piece, Kel, to come out, and
I made that in Discord.
I'm waiting for version 2 of this called Ivory, and the version 3 called Wayans, and then I think once they have version 3 out, we'll be fine.
Oh, he went there. All right. That's fantastic. Moving on. Let's go on to the other piece of hardware we're waiting on. Switch 2 Watch returns. So this is just some fun rumors and updates that we can group together.
All true.
Some of them are so weird. So just to start us off, it's just so funny to me to think March 3rd marked the 8 years we've had the Switch. That is a ridiculous length of time for one console, and I'm still playing it a lot, which that's mostly Balatro. I'm not going to lie, but if I ever stop playing Balatro, I have a whole bunch of other games I might play that are still coming out. Hell, we get Xenoblade Chronicles X next week. So by the time I get back from this trip, if I don't die on the road,
and this weekend only, you're going to get Tetris 99 Xenoblade. So make sure to play it.
I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to be right after this. I'm editing and then going to bed so I can get.
Well, you have until I think Monday afternoon or Monday night. So
okay, maybe I can play in the hotel when I get there.
Yeah.
So first up, a recent patent is showing the Switch 2 may have integrated voice chat as well as a proximity chat feature for certain titles, which was best demonstrated back in the day, if you guys remember, for Xbox Live on Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, where you could sneak up on people or be talking with your teammate. And if you're too close to other players on the rival team, they could hear you. You had to make, really choose when you talked and where you were and be strategic about it. And I really miss that. It was such a stressful mechanic.
Just to give us Discord.
Well, you'd be playing, trying to be quiet, and someone's in your house like, hey, dinner's ready. And you hear one of the other players, hey, wait, someone's here. Like, shit. Yeah, I mean, that does actually bring up a point. Maybe this would point towards Discord not being used, which would suck because that's become pretty much our universal way of talking on games now. But
yeah, because I heard more proximity than integrated, because they were like, don't expect it to have anything that people are saying. Don't expect it to have what PlayStation and Xbox have. So
I think
Nintendo are banking on Discord.
I think Nintendo will still have their own voice chat, but I think it will be an integrated thing. Not hopefully they're moving away from the phone app. I know that was not popular at all.
Too. Now can plug in the top. Yeah.
Oh god, that'd be
your phone doesn't die. It charges while you talk.
The worst use of that USB-C port. But you got to mount your microphone on top. It's like one of the big ball mount.
You can FaceTime your friends while you shoot them in the face.
Can you imagine Steven trying to play Switch 2 with that big ball mic of his just stuck to the top?
You're right. He'd do it though.
He would in a heartbeat. Look at this. It's amazing. the next rumor that I want to talk about is reports are coming in stating that Nintendo has already shipped over 380,000 units of the Switch 2 to North American stores. If proven true, this is showing Nintendo is serious about getting the systems out to users ASAP, possibly a quick turnaround after the April 2nd reveal. I'm not saying that week or that month, but like within a month or so, they might kind of jump into it.
Yeah, Nintendo, please don't shadow drop the Switch 2 after the Direct.
That'd be terrible. I already have a credit card waiting to go, but still, it would be terrible. Fingers are crossed on this, but just to kind of give an example, the Wii sold around 600,000 units within the first 8 days, and that was probably one of the fastest, most recent kind of like sales spikes Nintendo's had. Was the launch of the
analysts
Wii.
are already saying that this will probably be the biggest console launch in history in terms of how they're planning around it.
I'm curious. I want to see how its first couple of months compared to the Switch, because the Switch started off pretty well because people were hesitant after the Wii U. And once it picked up and then they were able to meet demand, like it skyrocketed from there, and it's been still going. This is the first one where it's like, hey, the Switch was a success, and we'll see, will they have the sales because of that, or will they not have the sales also because of it? Because people are like, well, I already have a Switch. Why get a Switch 2 right now? Like,
well, as your Switch 1 gets older, it'll get faster.
We'll talk about that in a bit, where that comes from, but it was proven not true, which is kind of funny. And the last little bit of Switch 2 news that I had, and this was kind of a last minute one that I thought was interesting, and then I saw how they determined it and was just laughing and just wanted to talk about it. So a new FCC filing is pointing towards a Bluetooth-enabled GameCube controller for Switch 2, possibly. The listing has the device prefix for the Switch 2, which is apparently going to be BEE, instead of the one for the Switch 1, which had HAC. Is all their hardware codes have that on it. It's marked in a lower left position, so they show basically a square of where the device would fit in the picture, and then down here is where the logo is going to be, in such a weird spot. Some were thinking maybe it could be for a Pro controller, but it states it does not have NFC and stuff like that, so it more than likely wouldn't be that. But it does line
Confirmed.
up. Huh?
Confirmed.
Yeah. People took the image of the GameCube controller, and when it's laid in the box, fitting in there, it's right where the label is on that lower bottom right analog stick, which is such a weird place to put it. I could kind of see it. I think this would be like the newer generation of the Nintendo Switch Online controllers, where if they had a Switch Online as part of it for GameCube, they might have a Bluetooth wireless GameCube controller to support it, and this would be the release for that. That
and
feels
launch
more
it with
likely.
Cubivore and Smash Brothers, and
if they put Cubivore in there, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be so happy, because that is such an underrated game. It is. I thought it was the dumbest thing when I saw it, and I started playing it, and I was like, I'm hooked. This is so dumb, and I love it. So, I mean, more than likely, I think the GameCube adapters all the way back to the Wii U will probably still work, because they worked on the Wii, the Wii U to the Switch. Switch stuff will probably still work on the Switch too, so that'll be, you can just plug in your existing ones. But I could see them making a wireless controller for, NSO
Wavebird
GameCube.
2.
I wouldn't be mad at it. I love the Wavebird. That's a good controller. I have 4 of them on my GameCube right now. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see GameCube on here? Could this be a controller?
With Eternal Darkness and Geist and Hyper Go Grind and stuff.
For the Melee Bros.
Yeah.
Oh, God. They'll never be happy.
Melee with online. There you go.
It's got lag. Oh, man. People would lose their shit if they put Melee on there for a Nintendo Switch Online title. But they never brought Smash Brothers 64 out, surprisingly. So, who knows? All right, well, that's it for the news. Let's jump over to the speedrun. Well, speaking of voice actors, we were talking about it earlier. Dave Morrow, the modern voice of Akuma, who has passed away at the age of 76. He voiced Akuma in Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He also voiced a lot of characters, too many to list, from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which the more I thought about it and saw the picture listing all of them, I was like, oh, they did all sound similar. As well as Digimon and so many more. So I know Rachel's been going back and watching Digimon since she got a box set, so she's probably hearing some of his work as we speak. Next up, the original Super Nintendo hardware has apparently seems to be partially running faster after all of this time. While the titles have been acting like the different news articles have been acting like it's some major drastic change and it's going to affect the speedrun community, it's as usual overblown clickbait. So there is in fact a ceramic resonator located in the audio processing unit, the APU made by Sony, ironically, is running a tad faster than its intended 3200 hertz or 3.2 kilohertz. So it's running at like 3200, like 32,500 hertz. Like it's just this little difference. So all that's leading to is the audio might be a little bit faster and a little bit higher pitched because it's pitched up a bit. Now, the CPU seems unaffected. It's running as it normally does, so speedruns shouldn't be affected with it. And the example they gave of why it shouldn't be a problem was Super Metroid, because technically the sounds would load in faster when you switch rooms. But if you played the entire game, all of that time saved would not be the equivalent of one frame. So it's such a minuscule scale. Yeah, new strats that we're going to time travel and wait 100 years for the CPU to get a little bit faster.
This is why you can't have Sonic games on Super Nintendo hardware, because you'll drown faster.
Yeah, we don't need to hear that higher pitched. Next up, BlizzCon is skipping 2025, but will be returning in 2026 with no reason given. I'm kind of curious if they're either delaying it to try and reformat everything, or they just didn't have anything to announce.
Switch 2.
I guess.
World of Warcraft console.
Yeah, Diablo 4 coming to it. We'll finally get World of Warcraft. Nintendo is opening a new San Francisco wing of the Nintendo World Store on May 15th. So that gives them a location on both coasts, because they have their other location in the US over in New York. And I can bet money they're going to have a big Switch 2 launch event over there. Like it's because this is going to be coming out about a little over a month after the Switch 2 is announced. Hey, maybe May 15th is the launch day, and they're just
Nintendo takes over America from coast to coast.
And we'll start a rumor now. May 15th will be the Switch 2 launch date, because that'll be when they open the store and they'll already have Switch 2s in stock. That's where all 360,000 were shipped.
There you go.
Just that store. Freaking California. Lastly, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 HD was announced, and they monkey pawed the hell out of it. So if we all remember the term of what a monkey paw wish is, it's basically you wish for something, you get it, but with a terrible twist. And the case for this one is all the story content from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 has been removed from the game, and we're left with basically the PlayStation 1 version. So graphically, it's going to look great, but it's only going to have the 2-minute runs on each of the skate parks. So you're not going to get all the little story parts in between, as well as Bam Margera was removed from the game, which honestly, I'm not surprised by that. They've been having some issues with him, I think. And they just wanted to kind of just pop him out of there. That does mean that Tony Hawk Underground is pretty much never going to happen, because that's all story and mostly Bam Margera.
But there's microtransactions and there's early access, and you can play as Doomslayer and then a cat.
Steven's cat is in the camera right now.
And Taco Bell had a direct. Taco Bell had a direct.
Do you have a touch screen?
I don't have something to say. Anyway.
At least he didn't disconnect you. That would have sucked.
Don't forget, Taco Bell had a direct where you can get Taco Bell stores in your levels now. So there's going to be tons of microtransactions in Tony Hawk 3 and 4.
All they need to worry about is bringing back my quesarito, damn it. Like,
I hope that cat doesn't disconnect you. Like, so I thought they did a great job with Tony Hawk 1 and 2. And I mean, the 3 and 4 content it probably should have just been DLC. Like I would have wanted its own games, but at least giving us the maps and having 3 and 4.
You could sell us the story content. There you go. $10.
Oh God, they're redoing all the voices with AI.
Yeah.
They're working with Scopely
gonna-
to add microtransactions.
They're making an AI Bamajera, one that they can control.
It'll be a AI generated photo with a survey after to see if you actually want it.
They'll just South Park animate him. It's like just a picture and his mouth moves like the Canadians. I'm Bamajera. Jesus. All right. We've exactly hit the hour 30-minute mark. Let's move over to the big question. So this week, since March 10th was Mario Day, let's find it out. What are your top 3 favorite Mario 2D titles? Please be system version specific. Though I am noticing Chase and I will not have much to argue about at all. So let's go ahead and start with you, Chase. What's your number 3?
Well, that's the one that I was like thinking about because
I'm putting you on the spot. Let's go.
my if this it was including 3D titles, this would be easy. My number 1 would be Super Mario 64. It'd be shut up, let's get out of here. Like
we'll do a 3D one. We'll do a 3D one later. This is the 2D.
We'll do it after the Switch 2 launch.
Exactly.
Direct. Right.
but 2D, probably like New Super Mario Brothers U because I'm not as like into
That's
the
a good
2D
one.
titles.
Yeah.
Because I think I played the New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously number 2 number 2 and number 1 was kind of tough for me because like I spent a lot more time with number 2 than I did 1, but 1 was just good. Number 2 is Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. I really had fun with that game. Like, getting to ride Yoshi. Like when I could ride Yoshi for the first time, I was like, "What? This is awesome." But number 1, Super Mario Bros. 3. I remember like going over to Grandma's house, turning on the NES and just playing it, finding the hidden warp tubes and all that, warp pipes and all that. It was great. Such a fun time.
For sure. All right, Steven, what about you?
Well, yeah, my list is actually different than you guys.
That's fine.
But yeah, number 3 was Super Mario Land. It had some really great music that I can still hum to this day. It gave us Daisy. It gave us shooting stages, which we had never gotten in Mario games before. So that was
the plane and the sub.
Unique. And then going down the unique train, and number 2 is Super Mario Maker 1 on Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Super Mario Maker 2 is trash because you can't use all the amiibos. You can't become all the different characters with their own unique stuff. All they did was piecemeal Zelda out to you in the second one, while the first one's like you can have everybody that you own and you can just have a great time. So the fact that got shut down after so many people worked so hard on that was sad for
that. They could have just carried it over.
And then lastly, of course, is Super Mario Brothers 3. But I hold it over. I don't even put a place for Super Mario World because, as I've told other people, 3 just had the variety of worlds that I've always been looking for. Where instead of just like, this is a desert, this is water, it was just like, no, this is giant world. Or this one you're climbing a pyramid, so at least they didn't just change the background. They did a lot more with it. Or like, you wouldn't see the angry sun in any other level except for the desert because he'd always be after you there. So it was just like a lot more happening there. And the first time I got to the giant stage, I was hooked. So.
All right. So for me, my number 3 is going to be Super Mario Brothers on the original NES, because that was not only my first Mario game, but that was also the main game that introduced me to video games itself. I remember the Christmas that I got my original Nintendo. I remember sitting there and reading the book. My mom took a photo. She photobombed me while I was in the bathroom, reading the manual, sitting there with my pants down and just going, looking up as she snapped the photo. And I'm like, I have that. It's never going to go out. So, but it's there. But I played that game to death The book ended up coming apart. I read it so often. Next up, I'd have to go with Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, because that one, like Chase was saying, just the massive world, riding on Yoshi, fighting against the Koopa kids, finding all the secrets. Like, it was such a massive title for that. It kind of introduced me to the Super Nintendo and into a lot of that stuff. And that's what introduced us with the spin jump, where you could kind of break through stuff. You could do the different power-ups, like trying to use the cape to fly and figuring out the physics of that and the rhythm, while still maintaining like a lot of the older power-ups and stuff as well, which was nice. And then lastly, my number one, which we all agree on, is Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES. Specifically that one. For some of them, I kept going back and forth between that version and the Super Mario All-Stars version on the Super Nintendo, which is still a great game. If that's how you play the original Mario trilogy, it's not a bad way to do it. There are some differences, but you're going to get a great set in there. But I specifically remember, and I love the fact, Chase, you mentioned your grandma with that, because that was one of the few times my parents ever got me a game when it came out without telling me, and mailed it to me while I was staying at my grandparents in Virginia. So I remember that morning, their mail came first thing in the morning, which was always weird to me because our mail is always like almost at night by the time we get it. So we were going out to go do her day of shopping, and I was going to go with my grandma, and I get that package, and I'm holding Super Mario Brothers 3, and she's like, all right, we got to go. And I'm like, can I just stay? Can I please? So the whole day I'm just flipping through that book, reading everything, looking at the cartridge, looking at the box, studying every part of it, until I finally got home that night and just bolted upstairs to start playing that game. And I still play it today. And that's still my preferred version. The feel of having an actual NES controller, and I still have the NES hooked up to a CRT to play that one. But I think that is one of the high points, I think, of a lot of the Mario design. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, my memory of Super Mario Bros. 3 is quite vivid because I accidentally discovered it early when it
I think you mentioned that.
And after I discovered it, I wasn't allowed to play it until my birthday. So I had to look at a sealed copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 until March 12th, which ironically was this week. So
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. So it was quite a wait to get there, and I was just like, oh. And that commercial just made it so much better because everybody's just chanting his name. It's like,
oh yeah, and it goes out to the whole planet.
Yeah.
That was a whole thing. And, of course, they had the parts of it first showing up in The Wizard, which I never got to see in theaters, but I remember hearing about it and kids talking about it like, oh, he was playing Mario 3. I was like, what?
One of the greatest movies of all time. It's an American classic.
How did he know to go down and get the warp whistle? How the hell did you know that?
50,000 in Double Dragon either.
You can't. No. All right. So thankfully, like, we have... Well, Chase, you and I have the same taste, I guess, in Mario games for most of it. I respect the new Super Mario Brothers U, though. That's a good pick. That was a great game, with the new Luigi U being a nice extension to that one.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually.
Well, that was actually well, that was one of my more famous, like one of my biggest things I ever got known for was when we got new Luigi U, because they added Nabbit. And Jennifer, when she was little, she couldn't really see. She wanted to play games with us so bad, but she couldn't really figure it out. And the Wii U, as much as everybody hated it, with the gamepad, she could put her face right in the gamepad and see it within her visual range. She didn't have very good hand-eye or motor control of her hands, so she kind of crab grip the Wii remote, so she could move the D-pad and one button to jump. But you'd play as Nabbit, you couldn't get hurt. And we filmed us playing it, and that was the first time that she was able to join in. She was all excited. We all died because I'm trying to hold a camera and play. Her brothers died and playing the game, and she managed to finish the level. And that was the video I had posted on a website back in the day called GamePolitics.com, which is where I met like Andrew Eisen and all them. That's where that started, which that led to IGN talking about it, where I got to talk with Peer Schneider. And it went over, and I think like Kotaku covered it and a bunch of the other sites. And that was like the bigger thing I'd done at the time. but she still absolutely loves that game. So I will have much respect for that one. All right, let's end that. All right, so I think this has been a fairly tight hour and 40-minute show so far with the three of us for fun. So you can find the podcast in audio form wherever you listen to your shows, and the video version over on YouTube at our channel, Zenspath.com or Zenspath.com. Both can easily be found over on Zenspath.com/podcast as well. And then leave us a review if you can to help us grow the show. Like and share the show with others. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Let us know how you feel about the show. Maybe answer your big question. What are your top 3 2D, specifically 2D, Super Mario games from the entire life of it? So that's going to be going all the way back to the Atari and arcades with, Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers, all the way to the most recent, which I believe is still Mario Wonder. I'm not counting re-releases of everything. Otherwise we'd be here all day. Then you can also, if you want to talk to us directly or debate this out, you can find us over at Discord, which the link for that is over on Zenspath.com as well, or you can go to bit.ly/Zenspathdiscord to join. All right, well, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers, joined once again by Steven and Chase. This has been episode 164, and we're out. Peace.
Whose favorite is Mario Teaches Typing?
Not me.